A crab boat iced over and rolled on New Year's Eve. The captain had loaded her exactly as the book told him to. The book was wrong. At 5 to 10 at night on New Year's Eve, 2019, a radio call went out on the distress frequency off the coast of Alaska. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Scandies Rose, Scandies Rose, Scandies Rose. We are rolling over. 7 people were aboard. 2 of them lived. Nothing on this boat broke. The engines, the steering, the hull, the investigators cleared all of them. The captain had loaded his boat exactly as the instructions on board told him to. Those instructions were wrong. The Scandies Rose was a crab boat working the Bering Sea out of Kodiak, Alaska. She left the fuel dock at 25 past 8 on the evening of December the 30th, 5 hours before she sailed. The National Weather Service had issued a gale warning and a heavy freezing spray warning for exactly the route she was taking. A heavy freezing spray warning means ice building on a vessel at 2 centimeters an hour or more. Fishing is the most dangerous job in America. Between 2000 and 2020, 805 commercial fishermen died. Stacked on her deck were 195 crab pots. Remember the pots, they are the whole story. At 2 in the morning on the 31st, she entered the Shelikof Strait, steady on 240 degrees at 8 knots. At 20 past 11 that morning, the captain phoned another boat. He said it was very cold, the seas were poor, and his vessel was taking light icing. One of the deckhands later described the day this way. The weather started coming up a lot more and progressively got worse all day. The boat was bucking into the seas, he said, making a lot of spray, and the spray was making ice. This is what that looks like. Coast Guard crews breaking ice off their own cutter in those same waters during the search that followed. At 7:15 in the evening, the deckhand on watch woke the captain. They talked about the worsening weather, the ice building on the superstructure and the pots, and a 2-degree list to starboard that had appeared. They considered slowing down and changing course to cut the spray. The deckhand asked whether he should wake the crew to break the ice off the pots. The captain decided to hold course and speed, and not to wake the crew. He said the weather was too rough to have men out on deck chopping ice. At 7:30, she was 11 miles from shelter at Ugushek Island, and 11 miles from shelter at Sutwick Island. Before he left the bridge, the deckhand looked at the pots stacked through the window. Every pot was glazed over. The pots on the starboard side were worse, about 2 inches of ice, and ice inside the webbing as well. At 8 o'clock, the captain started making phone calls. He called a friend to wish her a happy new year. He told her the boat was icing and had a list, and that he needed to tuck in someplace safe. She said he did not sound alarmed. At 27 minutes past 8, he called a fellow captain. By now the list was 20 degrees. He said the icing was really bad. 60 to 70 knots of wind from the west, 12 degrees Fahrenheit, too rough to send anyone out to break ice. They also talked about the holidays and about him having just bought more shares of the boat. The other captain said it did not seem like it was that bad. At 9:45, the boat turned 50 degrees to starboard, heading for the southern bay of Sutwick Island. 2.5 miles to run. The other captain called him back. He said the tone had changed. He had never heard that level of stress in the man's voice before. I don't know how this is going to go. At the same moment, 1 deck below, the 2 surviving crewmen were jolted out of their bunks by a sudden sustained list to starboard. I jumped out of my bunk in a panic and ran upstairs. I knew something was wrong right away. He reached the bridge and shouted, "What is going on?" The captain answered, I don't know, I think we are sinking." The crew tried to pull on immersion suits while the boat lay hard over. One of them called it pure mania. A chair he was propping himself against broke away, and he slid down the floor. 2 of them got out through the portside door. Then the lights went out. They tried to find a line to help the men still inside. The lines were all just too iced up. A wave swept the 2 of them off the side and into the water. They floated apart for about 20 minutes in what they estimated as 30-foot seas, with the wind gusting past 50 miles an hour. One of them saw a light, a life raft that had deployed itself as the boat sank. He swam a couple of 100 yards to it. He shouted until the other man heard him and swam over. Their raft's light had already gone out. They fired flares, nobody came. 4 hours later they saw a masked light. Out of flares, they signaled with a torch from the raft's kit. It was a Coast Guard helicopter. So why does ice roll a boat over? Gravity pulls down through one point. Buoyancy pushes up through another. Lean the boat and the two separate, and that gap levers her back upright. Put weight up high and the center of gravity rises. The gap shrinks. The boat fights back less. Plot that arm against the angle of lean, and you get a curve. The area under it is the energy the boat has to right herself. Investigators estimated the Scandies Rose put on between 6 and 15 inches of ice on every surface exposed to the wind. The Coast Guard later ran an experiment. Leave crab pots out in freezing spray for 3 days, then weigh them. The ice built on the boat and on the stacked pots, and it raised her center of gravity, and it went on one side more than the other. On the curve, that is the difference between a boat that comes back and one that does not. Here is the part that makes this accident different. The crew loaded the Scandies Rose exactly according to the stability instructions carried on board. They did it right, and the vessel still did not meet the stability criteria because the instructions were inaccurate. And because the instructions were inaccurate, the captain had no way of knowing his boat did not have the safety margin the rules were supposed to give him. Why were they wrong? Because the rules for calculating icing do not account for how ice actually builds on a crab pot or on a stack of them. A crab pot is a steel frame wrapped in netting. Ice does not just coat it, it fills it. 195 of them, stacked above the deck. The board also found that captains are not told how much ice is assumed in their own stability book, so they cannot judge when they have passed it. And the Weather Service could not forecast that stretch of coast accurately, because there are almost no surface observations out there. The probable cause of the capsizing and sinking of the Scandies Rose was the inaccurate stability instructions for the vessel, which resulted in a low margin of stability to resist capsizing. Combined with heavy asymmetric ice accumulation, caused by local wind and sea conditions that were more extreme than the forecast. The board issued 7 recommendations. Not one of them is about seamanship. We made a film about another ship that went over, the Golden Ray. There, one officer typed a wrong number into a computer and nobody checked it. Here, nobody made a mistake at all. The captain followed the book, the crew loaded to the book, and the book had been wrong the whole time. The second kind is harder. A wrong person can be caught by a second pair of eyes. A wrong rule is checked by everyone and passed by everyone because it is the rule. 5 men did not come home from that voyage. The rules that told their captain his boat was safe are the ones the board asked to be rewritten.